The internet was an open, free protocol connecting humanity until it got captured by corporate monopolies, including Meta, X or Twitter, Google, and Amazon. It became a tool for profit, surveillance, and control. We can see this even happening in the West now, where the UK is demanding corporations ask for the IDs of citizens to be able to access their websites. We have gatekeepers like governments. For example, the Great Firewall of China preventing people from accessing information. I want you to know this video is not about the problem. It's about the solution. But we first need to really understand the problem and the root cause to overcome it. Because rage bait, algorithms pushing fear, violence, division, and hate are just manifestations on top of the root cause, as are constant advertising and monetization. From Tai Lopez's "Here in My Garage Lambo" from 2016 to the ads that are probably all AI-based now that we're constantly seeing today. It's hard to know what's real or fake anymore, with bots, AI slop, engagement farming, and deep fakes all over the place. I mean, look at these posts from Facebook that get engagement from, real people possibly? Like, who knows? That has led to the dead internet theory, with the idea that it's possible that over 50% of the internet isn't even real people anymore. It may just mostly be AI and bots. Then you've got synthetic media, filter, and lack of authenticity from some of the real humans that are there. So why do you think this is happening? What do all of these things have in common? What might be the motivation behind all of this? Well, when you really dig deep, it becomes clear that all of these things come back to one thing: money. But not just any kind of money. It's fiat money. Fiat means to declare or to decree in Latin. And in this context, it means paper is declared to have value by governments and central banks. By fiat, they tell us that fiat money like dollars, euros, and pesos and pounds are valuable. But really, it's just paper. We believe that this money has value because governments tell us it does. But this money is subjected to inflation, meaning a lot of it is printed into existence. What does that do? That reduces our ability to actually buy things with the money. The more money in the system, the less value it holds. And so when we have inflation, meaning every year prices increase, this means that we can buy less and less things with our money. We might not feel as affected by inflation in the West, but look back just on the last 5 years. Can you buy more things with your money since 2020 or less? Inflation puts us into a survival mindset characterized by greed, competition, and fear. The outcome is division, polarization. These things lead to war. The problems we discussed at the beginning of this video about the internet are just manifestations on top of a broken monetary system. Tech corporations have to keep producing more and more income because they're under the same inflationary pressures as we are. Wage workers must work harder and harder every month to make more money to pay for the same basic needs. This puts us in ego consciousness, focused on our own survival and the survival of our family. It's much easier to control the population when they're in fear, trying to survive day to day, rather than a population that's empowered and thriving. So this is the massive root cause of the problem. The more inflation there is, the worse everything will get, including division, poverty, and the internet. Unfortunately, inflation cannot stop from this system. It actually has to accelerate. If we stopped, the system would implode, so things will get much worse. However, even though we live in a pretty stupid system designed to siphon our time and energy, we could be thriving in a completely different system. Now, I'm not blaming governments, politicians, or any individuals at all here. This is an incentive problem stemming from broken monetary incentives based on an inflationary system. Change the money, change the incentives, change the world. And so, what could solve this internet problem we began with? Let's start talking about solutions. Well, the first thing we need to do is to change the incentives of money, because that's the root cause like we saw. We would need to have a system that is not based on debt, that does not incentivize survival mode, and that cannot be co-opted. The second thing we need to do is free the internet, like it was when it first started, a way to connect humanity rather than divide. And so, how could we fix the first problem change the incentives. We just saw this a second ago. This is the system in which we live, the fiat system. Well, we'd need to flip this pyramid upside down. What we would need is scarce money. Money that cannot be printed to infinity, co-opted, or controlled by any centralized entity or individuals. This would lead to a deflationary monetary system, the opposite of what we have today. What does that mean? Well, imagine prices falling forever because technological productivity and human progress is flowing to you. Does that sound impossible? Prices never fall, they always go up, right? Well, why are we working more and more every year when technology is so productive? For real, you should be getting wealthier each year, even if you do nothing, because technology is designed to make things cheaper. Human creativity, productivity, and innovation makes things cheaper. If things are getting more expensive, it's because of the money printing, inflation. Essentially, you're being stolen from. So if we had scarce money, we'd have more purchasing power year over year. Even if we didn't work, we'd have a thriving community of people with more time and space for creativity, connection, collaboration, the opposite of survival. This would lead to unity consciousness. This doesn't mean that we're all the same. It's sovereign individuals serving the collective and the collective serving the sovereign individual. This would be a much more peaceful, abundant society of people operating from a higher state of consciousness, living in self-actualization. I know this sounds utopic, but it's already happening in Bitcoin. Not Monero, not gold, not Dogecoin or anything else. Bitcoin is the only system we've ever had in the last 5,000 years that offers a way out of fiat. If this idea is completely new to you, it may be worth exploring further, and I explain the entire phenomenon in detail in this video on my channel. So let's talk about the second thing we would need to free the internet. The foundation of the internet is free and open source, meaning that anyone can audit the code or participate in it. No central business, company, or government owns the internet per se, but the apps that are being built on top are proprietary and they lock you in. I mean, Google's a great example. We just saw the incentive structure was based on fiat, and so we would need an internet that's completely free and open source. We'd need it to be decentralized, run by people all over the globe, so no one central authority, CEO, or government could stop it. It would need to be based on a better incentive structure of money, Bitcoin. And that's already happening. It's happening on a protocol called NOSTR. So here's what could solve the problems that we just talked about at the beginning of the video. Bitcoin plus NOSTR. Now, if you don't believe me, I would highly recommend going down the rabbit hole of what Bitcoin is. This is incredibly important. It took me half a decade to understand this, and I put it all into this book called Beyond Money. I'll come back to this later because I don't want to stop the presentation. But I'd highly recommend continuing to question this parallel reality I'm presenting to you. Because once you deeply understand what Bitcoin entails, you can't unsee the freedom. Someone on NOSTR asked, "Why are you here?" And I found these replies really interesting. Freedom of speech, freedom of transaction, freedom from Big Brother manipulation, the EU censorship that's happening right now, the 1984 vibe, as well as detox, which probably means a detox from X, because when you move away from the algorithms, you start to experience a much more hopeful reality. And then, but seriously, it's because I'm building the future I want to live in. Many people using NOSTR right now are in this mindset, including myself. So what is NOSTR? It means notes and other stuff transmitted over relays. I'm going to explain what this means. So let's begin with notes and other stuff. Notes is probably referring to text, but other stuff is images, videos, files, whatever you want to share or access online. Transmitted over relays means shared over servers that are decentralized throughout the world. So I could run a relay, you could run a relay, my neighbors could run relays. This decentralizes the network, which allows us to send and access files and information, just like the internet. So NOSTR is free and open source. There's no company that owns it. No government can control it. It's completely decentralized, so it's run by individuals across the globe. And it's a protocol, not a technology. While technologies generally only do one thing, like apps, protocols are technology stacks with many functions and apps. The internet is a great example. With TCP/IP, HTTPS, DNS, these are all parts of the internet protocol stack that you use every day without even knowing it. NOSTR has no censorship because it can't be stopped, since there's no one entity that owns it. There's no advertising. And if there is, you don't have to see it if you don't want to. You can actually opt out of these things because you're your own algorithm. You have control over what you see. I thought this post from Ben Ark was really interesting. NOSTR is less engaging than Twitter. This is a feature. Now this is kind of funny, but the death-called eyeball hooks that keep you doom scrolling for hours on corporate platforms just don't exist on NOSTR. You hop on, check in, read a few interesting posts, and then hop off and go touch grass. Sounds like a much healthier interaction with social media compared to Facebook or X. Now, Ben is specifically talking about the social layer of NOSTR here. But NOSTR is way more than a social tool. There's just so much happening on this protocol because there are tons of developers moving over to it, helping create empowering apps that are unstoppable. So one thing you can do on NOSTR is use it like social media. Primal, for example, is a client that allows you to use it like Twitter or X. However, Twitter is completely restricted. You've got advertisers, algorithms, no control over your data, there's a ton of spam, just so much happening that's on the perceived negative side, on X. You also have long-form content, blogging, and news. I'm currently selling my book and my ebook on Plebeian Market, which allows you to buy and sell products and services from other Bitcoiners in sats, which are small fractions of Bitcoin. NOSTR Connect is opening up the protocol to tons of other apps that are being developed on the protocol as well. So you may be wondering, well, who's using NOSTR? You've got tons of different people. Artists, artisans, creatives, real people with diverse interests. There's so many cool things happening on NOSTR, but you have to be curious about it. You have to curate and craft your feed. You have to follow people and topics you're actually interested in. Because if you don't invest any time in it, of course you're going to think it sucks. I've met a lot of super cool people on NOSTR because I've curated my feed to find content I'm interested in. And there's a super important relationship between NOSTR and Bitcoin, specifically Bitcoin on Lightning. Bitcoin is also a protocol, not a technology, which means it's built in layers, multiple layers of technologies. On layer 1, we have on-chain Bitcoin, which is the very base layer of the Bitcoin protocol. It's built for security. However, on the second layer, you have Bitcoin Lightning. It's still Bitcoin, just a higher level of the protocol, where we can have more privacy, faster transactions, and lower costs. And then there's other layers. For example, Cashew is coming on layer 3, but these are all works in progress right now. NOSTR is also a protocol. It's not just a one-off technology. We can interact with it through clients. I'll explain what clients are a little bit later on. But first I want to talk about monetization, because this is a key aspect in the relationship between Bitcoin and NOSTR. People are getting paid on Bitcoin on Lightning using NOSTR, and it's incredibly powerful. More specifically, the monetization model is called value for value. Value for value is like a donation-based model. If you think the information you're getting is helpful, like what I'm talking about in this video, you can thank creators and other people directly with a zap by sending them small amounts of Bitcoin. For example, I made this video for free and I have no other income other than value for value and my book, which I also consider value for value. This YouTube channel no longer makes any money. It's completely demonetized. So if you send me sats on NOSTR or buy my book in Bitcoin, it supports the creator directly in a powerful way. No middlemen involved. No YouTube taking a 30% cut, you know what I mean? If you like this video so far, please leave a like, consider sharing, and doing value for value. I showed you this post earlier. As you can see, it received 7,200 sats, which are fractions of Bitcoin. At the moment, that's worth about $7. There's no middlemen, so it was directly sent to Ben in this example. There's no YouTube or Facebook trying to take a cut, no Visa transaction fees. Here's a photographer named Tori, who explains that he doesn't need Instagram anymore. Quote, "I've had thousands of followers over Instagram, 500 pixels, and Flickr. I didn't sell a single photo over there. I've already sold 5 thanks to my website and NOSTR. Value for value here is real and it works." I can give you my own example again. I've been writing articles on NOSTR, and here I made about $9 for one of them. Of course, it's not massive. I can't live off of this right now, but it's in Bitcoin. I made this post a few days ago while preparing this video to explain what I mean. Let's say you made $25 on YouTube. If you keep that $25, in 8 years, if it's subjected to 10% inflation, it'll be worth $12 in purchasing power today. However, if you made $25 worth of Bitcoin on NOSTR and held it for 8 years, since Bitcoin's year-over-year growth on average has been 45%, it could be worth $533 in 8 years, but considering 10% inflation year-over-year, it could buy $258 worth of goods and services, so purchasing power, in 8 years. It's clear that value for value isn't sustainable short term without savings or another form of income, but it operates on a completely different timeline. If you're willing to wait 4, 8, 12 years, your Bitcoin will accumulate much more purchasing power in the future because that's how Bitcoin works. YouTube ads and other mainstream monetization models are firmly rooted in the fiat world, while value for value is about manifesting the reality in which we wish to live. If what I'm saying sounds like a foreign language to you, that's okay. I just highly recommend that you continue your search for truth in this domain. My book can be part of that process if you wish, but I'd like to invite you to watch any of Jeff Booth's interviews on YouTube to try to understand why prices fall in a Bitcoin world. So how does NOSTR work? Well, you'll have a private key and a public key. You've got clients and you've got relays. I'm going to explain each of these. So your private key is known as your NSEC. This gives you access to all your content, photos, videos, apps, posts, whatever they are. This needs to remain private because it gives access to all of your accounts. Don't even store this digitally if you can avoid it. No screenshots or uploads to Google Drive. Okay, then you have a public key, your NPub. This can be shared with anybody. It gives access to your profile so people can follow you, for example. Clients are the apps that allow you to interact with the protocol. So equivalents would be like going to Facebook or Google or Instagram. These things allow you to interact with the internet, right? Same thing with these clients on NOSTR. Relays are decentralized servers or computers running the protocol. They can be private or public. They pretty much just allow you to access NOSTR. Here's the thing. The important thing about this protocol is that you own all of your content, your photos, your videos, your posts, your private messages, your followers. Everything is connected to your private key. So let's say you're using a client called Primal to access NOSTR, and everything's going amazing and you really love what they're doing. But suddenly they make a change that you don't like. They take away a feature or add something, or something changes. Maybe you want to change clients. Well, right now in traditional social media, for example, if Facebook did something you didn't like, you'd have to close your account. You couldn't take your followers, your messages, your images, your posts. You couldn't take any of that with you, right? You'd have to leave Facebook. But with NOSTR, you can just go to another client. For example, open Damus, enter your private key, and there they are. All of your photos, posts, private messages, follows, and everything. It's all attached to your private key, and you're the only one who knows what it is. And so in our hypothetical example, if we're trying to transpose this idea over to what we currently know, the idea would be that if Facebook was doing something you didn't like, and they were trying to censor you or whatever, you could take all of your Facebook contacts, messages, photos, everything, and hypothetically open it in X. Now, that's not possible on centralized social media platforms, of course, because these are all separate companies that have their own policies, investors, and corporate interests. However, that's not how NOSTR works. Your private key is the key to everything. If you don't like what Primal's doing, if you don't like what Damus is doing or any other client, you can take all your data with you, thanks to your private key. It's absolute insane power as a content creator or any person who has something to say. So in the next part of the video, I'm going to help you onboard to join NOSTR. Now that you know about it, I'm going to show you how to get a private key, how to use clients, how to connect to relays, and how to use Bitcoin Zap features because it's super important. But before we go there, I just want you to know this is a presentation that I did in person. If you like this presentation, you can actually use it at your own Bitcoin meetups. I have a link in the description below. I did it with CryptoPanis, who's another Bitcoin educator in the area where I'm located, and we had a lot of fun doing it. So I just want to let you know, if you want to reuse this presentation, you absolutely can. So we'll start with your private key using clients, then relays, a Bitcoin wallet, and then zapping. At the moment, I recommend using Primal to generate your private key and to access the social layer of Nostr. Now, I have no affiliation with them. I'm not being compensated in any way. I just use the Primal app every day at the moment, and I'm enjoying it. They have a really good user interface that is very familiar and easy to use. It's also available on Android and iPhone, so if you want to start using Nostr and interacting with it, I'd start here. All you have to do is install the app on your phone or open it on your desktop by searching primal.net. Create your account, upload your profile information if you'd like. Now, most people remain anonymous, so do what feels right to you. And then apparently Primal suggests a list of people to follow. Now, this is my personal opinion, but I would unfollow this entire list. The best experience comes from following people you actually vibe with, and oftentimes those are actually smaller accounts. Then go to Settings, Account. This is where you'll find your private key, or NSEC. Don't share this with anybody. Don't make it public in any way. Write this down on a piece of paper and save it somewhere fireproof. This is going to be the full access to your account. Honestly, I accidentally lost my first NSEC and no longer have access to my very original account due to having updated my computer. So it can happen to anybody. You just gotta be really careful with it. Self-responsibility is super important in this space. So if you don't like what Primal's doing at some point, or if you don't want to use this client anymore, I definitely recommend heading over to nostr.apps to check out other apps that you can use on the Nostr protocol for the social layer or anything else. Next, you're going to set up relays. Because if you don't see anything in your account right now, it's because you need relays. Go to Settings, Network, and either add your own relays or click Reset Relays. Just make sure that you have some set up. Now it's time to follow some accounts and topics. Like I said, you are your algorithm, so you need to refine your feed. I would highly suggest following Jeff Booth. A lot of my work is based on his thesis. You can also find fellow Bitcoin educator CryptoPanas and my account if you like. Otherwise, start looking for artists, gardeners, gamers, developers, and other topics and individuals with similar interests to yours. If you'd like to bring over your current followers from Twitter, head over to nostr.directory, where you can find Twitter users you follow who have Nostr accounts and add them as well. Our next step is going to be to set up your Bitcoin wallet. This is super important to be able to zap, which is a main feature on the Nostr protocol. At the moment, and of course once again, I'm not being funded by any of these companies. And this could change in the future, but at the moment, Coinos.io is probably the easiest way to set up a Lightning wallet. You can go to Coinos.io, create an account, and then go to Settings, click Nostr, scroll down and add a new connection, copy the secret key, go back over to Primal, click on Settings, Connected Wallets, and then connect Nostr Wallet Connect. All you have to do is paste the Nostr Wallet Connect string that you just copied from Coinos.io. Now you should be able to receive zaps. If you don't have any sats in your account and you don't have access to any Bitcoin right now, don't worry about it. As long as your wallet is set up, if you start posting things that are actually valuable to people, you'll probably receive some sats. Most people use the hashtag introductions as their first post. So this was the basic setup to give Nostr a try on the social layer. As you know, there's so much more being built on top of Nostr, and your NSEC is really important. You need to keep it safe. This is where signers come in. You might want to consider using a browser extension like Albi, which I'm not fully recommending to be honest, or a signing device. But these are more advanced things and may change in the future, so I would just really recommend looking into it at the moment you're watching this video if you'd like to go further. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, please consider value for value to support the new economy.